Hello ladies and gentlemen, glad to have you here. Today's video is about Clash Artifacts of Chaos. This is a game that I've been looking forward to since it was first announced, and for good reason. This is a game by Ace Team, a game studio based in Santiago, Chile, founded by three brothers, Andres, Carlos, and Edmundo Bordeaux, hence the name Ace. And if you've ever heard the name of this particular game studio, it's probably because they make some of the most visually inventive games I have seen in quite a while. These are the people responsible for the Rock of Ages games, Abyss Odyssey, Deadly Tower of Monsters, a personal favorite of mine, The Eternal Cylinder, one of their more recent titles, and of course, the games that got me interested in them in the first place, Zeno Clash 1 and 2, and now essentially Zeno Clash 3, Clash Artifacts of Chaos. Now, this game is not directly related to the story of those previous games, so you don't have to worry about missing out on it. And as we continue, I'll be able to tell you a bit more about that from here. So, what is this game about? You play as that big yellow by the name of Pseudo, who is a kind of hermit martial artist who lives out in the land of Zenozoik, as depicted in the previous Zeno Clash games, who during his travels encounters the boy, a small little bird-like guy there, whose grandfather is killed in a duel with another inhabitant of Zenozoik, and is left hopelessly stranded and wondering what to do. So, what does Pseudo do as a good guy with a gruff good guy with a card of gold? Decides to help him find his way to safety. Unfortunately, that is complicated somewhat by the interference of a multi-headed lady named Gemini, local warlord, who has been sending out bounty hunters and other riffraff after the boy, and now after Pseudo, but has continued helping him, in order to get him to heal her, because the boy has certain abilities to heal those who are direly sick, and she has some health problems to deal with urgently. So, here it is, Pseudo and the boy. So, your basic goal, if we look at our current progression here, 1, find the boy's brother in the Zonetic Mountains, the only family he's got left. And also, deal with Gemini and her bodyguards, who are sending out some serious heat your way and will not leave you alone until you deal with them. Unfortunately, they have some special abilities that make them very difficult to deal with, so you're also going to be out there looking for particular palliatives to that in the form of great artifacts. So, how does this game work out? This is a third-person melee game for the most part, though we'll get to that in a minute. As you can see, hiya! Lots of kung fu in this. So, this game has a lot of the exploration aspects of Zeno Clash 2 cranked up to 11 in the form of an almost Souls-like / Elden Ring style open world exploration. Not quite as open in that you're usually, limited in where you're traveling by the terrain and stuff like that. But you do go from place to place, unlocking these campfires. As you can see, I just saved there. Basically, anytime you unlock a campsite, you walk into it, you save. Otherwise, no dice. And this place is also where you get various abilities. So, for instance, I can use the training dummy here, if I had any skill points, to increase my main attributes here, which are power, endurance, aggressiveness, and constitution. These, of course, change up with your influence on your general combat statistics, stun resistance, damage resistance, etc., etc. They also, as you can see here, affect your combat stances. So, for instance, you have a variety of them. You start with one of 3 different ones, either boxing stance, lightning stance, slash stance, or another one, the spear stance. And depending on which one you have different move sets that applies to a different kind of combat style. So the boxing stance is your go-to balanced one. The slash stance is more area of effect, wider strikes. Lightning stance, which I found later on, is multi-hit attacks. And mammoth stance is big ol' slow, big damage hits. And each one of those is affected differently by your different attributes. So the boxing stance here is primarily affected by power, and a little bit also by endurance and aggressiveness, whereas lightning stance is more balanced, with a slight bit more emphasis on endurance. You also have special attacks that you unlock via finding them in the environment, as you do with the combat stances. So, for instance, multi-strike, which is just a big old kind of attack, is mostly influenced by endurance and aggressiveness, spin kick, which was the first one I got, mostly a power move, and etc. like that. So rising punch is mostly aggressiveness. So depending on the kinds of moves that you prefer and the ones you can actually find, which are unlocked through totems that you have to win a fight after using in order to acquire the move or stance in particular. With those, you end up having different playstyle. So, yeah, you can see here, well, that's the multi-attack kind of style. Whereas, so if I switch to boxing stance, it's a bit more standard, but it's got some good hits to it. And slash stance, as you can see, far more useful against groups of enemies if you want to hit a lot of them at once. Switch over to lightning. I'm enjoying the lightning strikes quite a bit. Other things you have here at the campsite is the cauldron. Here you can prepare health brews. Normally, if you just go to the cauldron and don't do any mixes, you just get some water in your flasks. I've got 2 of them because I actually upgraded and bought myself a second one from the shop. We'll just demonstrate that later. But each one of these would just fill up with water, and each flask would give you 25% of your health back. On the other hand, you can take a whole bunch of these little food items that you find in your environment, mix them all up, that's 4 at once, and depending on the mix, it'll give you a different bonus as well. Increased health recovery, but also perhaps increased power, increased aggressiveness, increased defense, stun resistance, that kind of thing. So, depending on if you have an idea of what you're going into, if you're looking to go into a really tough fight, you might want to get yourself a mix that works better for that kind of encounter, something with gives you better defense, perhaps, along the same lines. And finally, you have your tent, which you can use to sleep, change from night to day, or just sleep until the next day and recover all your health. So, this game, as I said, plays a little bit Soulsy in the sense that you are, kind of vulnerable. Most of the enemies you'll encounter, as they mentioned in the tutorial, are much stronger than you and will kick your ass if you're not careful. Although you do have the means of defending yourself. However, this game is also different in many ways. It isn't a pure Souls-like. It's closer more to like a third-person action game with Metroidvania aspects in that regard. So, your stamina bar, because of course you do have stamina bar, is that yellow circle that goes down as I attack. So, 2 differences there. 1, you can run a very long distance before it starts going down, so that's really good. And 2, you can keep fighting even when you run out of stamina, as you can see here. And it doesn't affect your damage in any way. What stamina does in this game is so long as you have yellow in that bar, you have increased, at least a 50% increase in your damage resistance, and you also have an increase in your stun and knockback resistance. So that means you can take hits that you wouldn't otherwise be able to handle. However, if that thing does run out, there we go. If it goes into the red, then all of a sudden you're going to be taking full damage from any attacks that hit you. So you're definitely going to want to be careful with that. Beyond that, this game also has a lot of specific moves, such as, for instance, dodge cancels. It plays a lot like a fighting game applied to a Souls-like. So you can have directional attacks, you dodge in a particular direction and attack at the same time. Right. Like that. Such as that, or like that. I do like the lightning stance quite a bit. So you have all these different aspects to it that give it a different feel. You're encouraged, while you are encouraged to be careful because of the danger that enemies pose to you, you also are encouraged to just keep kicking ass in the event of a fight. You have to use your ability to dodge cancel out of the way of attacks, but also use it to do attacks as well. So there's some different balancing in that regard. I also have a jump button. You can also do a little 180. I hit back and jump at the same time. There you go. Useful for fights when you have multiple enemies, of which there are quite a few we'll get into as soon as I go find one. You also have various merchants you can encounter, such as this weirdo here, accompanied by the appropriate music.
Everyone loves Eo's wares.
We do. So this guy Eo sells various items that are used for the ritual, which we'll get into once I get into a proper fight against an intelligent enemy. The ritual is basically the one law in Zenozoik. Everybody has to abide by it. And in this case, it's basically a little strategy game played with dice and these little stamps here, which you use during the thing, and I'll show you. You can also trade for other materials. There's no money in Zenozoik. Everything's barter. So all these things, either the food items I have or the different materials here, these are what I trade for things. Also, this is the guy I got the glass vial from by defeating a particularly nasty enemy. There's another merchant elsewhere around here who, instead of these kinds of things, also sells weapons and different kinds of armor. Right now I'm wearing the leather armor set. Clothing here. So like leather leg armor, shoulder pad, and arm guards. These ones basically provide bonuses to your stats while you're wearing them. I also have warm leg armor, jacket, and arm guards. This is going to be useful if I end up in a cold environment. As you can see, cold protection. And he gets a little thing. That's cool. Let's get ourselves back into these. These ones give a bit more bonus. I also got some extra body paint for stuff if I want to change up my look a bit. Speaking of look, also you have these various weapons. Before I get into the visuals of the game, you also have these various weapons that you can equip here from the inventory. This is a bit of, I find, a little bit irritating, having to open up your inventory, go to this tab, and then select a weapon. I would have preferred being able to just have a weapon selected and then have a button to switch in and out of that particular equipment. Basically what weapons do is they replace your normal attacks with another different kind of attack using the weapon, as you can imagine. Let's switch out of the bone saber here. As you can see, these ones also give bonuses to your stats, and they hit pretty hard and have different range and attack modifications, and typically do a bit more stun damage. They don't change your directional attacks though. So typically you do want to save them though, because they do have durability and they will break if you keep using them. And then you have the various artifacts, which I'll show off once I get to the actual ritual. So yeah, I would have preferred having something where I could switch them out faster, but that's, neither here nor there. The system as it is kind of similar to the Yakuza games, where you could also pick up weapons, but you'd also need to go through your inventory in order to actually equip them. Let's see, where was I going? Now, another issue of the game, if you can call it issue, is that it can be a little bit tough to figure out exactly where you're going. There are no real markers anywhere on the map that you have, which is this. It tells you where you are, not where you're facing, and it's kind of zoomed out, and it's kind of hard to tell exactly where you're going. Like, I need to go to the Zenozoik Mountains over here, but the chances of me figuring out where to go there just from this is pretty limited. I have to figure it out as I go along. And this map, the world can be kind of labyrinthian because, like, for instance, over here, this thing is a shortcut. If you can get to the top there, you can push this block down and climb up. The map is littered with doors that are locked from the other side, drawbridges that can be lowered from the other side, those kinds of blocks that can be knocked over. Which means that the overall world does end up turning in on itself a lot. You can go from one end to the map to the other. The only things that really stand out are these smoke plumes that mark the presence of a campsite, whether you've unlocked it or not. Let's go through here. Oh.
So what happened with you and your brother? What's his problem?
He got hurt because of me. It was my fault. Because I'm cursed.
You wanna tell me more?
No.
Fair enough. Bad memories are like wounds, except they don't heal.
Wise words. I will say this. You know how a lot of games...
A
horn leg. A lot of games these days, the God of War and stuff like that, which this game has been compared to in certain ways. I mean, just because, big fighty guy and little kid that follows him around. You can imagine why. They tend to fill the void of travel with, you know, just banter, constant banter, always talking. But here, the game is not afraid to just let you soak in the atmosphere and only chime in every now and then, like the boy pointing out that there's a horned leg over here, this thing over here, whose ass I'm going to kick. So lock on. Hiya! Oop, come on. There we go. So yeah, dodge canceling. Very useful. You can basically, once you've made an attack, dodge out of it, continue to attack, and really rack up some pretty high combos on that in order to really lay down the pain, which is really useful. Ah, and, ooh, yellow cactus. Grab that. So, as I was saying, the game really lets you soak in the atmosphere, and atmosphere, like the Zeno Clash games were already very, very good in the artistic department. I mean, that kind of surreal Salvador Dali meets Flintstones on acid kind of stone punk kind of feel to it. But what they've done with this one is they've added this comic book cel-shaded, not even cel-shaded, but this comic book style of artwork. If you get really close here, just get the camera to look at Pseudo here, you can see like the cross shading, the almost like pencil marks all over his body from the shadows shading there. And the same thing goes for the entire environment. And especially when you look out into the distance, like right here, you can see everything getting paler and paler as it goes out into towards the horizon. The effect really gives depth, but in a way that you don't really see done this well. I mean, most games that go for a cel-shaded kind of look will typically just put like a black lines, thick black lines around the exterior of the characters, go with limited texturing and stuff like that. But here, you don't get that. This is very detailed, and you can see the way it changes with the light. That is just really, really gorgeous. I mean, in terms of like the quality of this particular application, the art style, I think like maybe the Wolf Among Us game that Telltale put out is pretty much the only one I can think of that has this same level of quality to it when it comes to the cel shading animations, cel shading art style. That is high praise for me, because I think that game, not necessarily my kind of game, but goddamn if it didn't look good, right? And this one is top tier in the visuals. Ooh, okay, first punch artifact, that's a good one. Ooh, never found one of these things. Let's go kick its ass. Cucumber, you usually find, it's usually pretty easy to find a whole bunch of stuff. Ooh, hello. Big bird. You can usually find all sorts of stuff in your environment as you go around. Oh, hello.
I'll crush you this time. I invoke the ritual.
Yes, I do. Alright, so we got two people here. Oh, hey. So, he uses a spider poison artifact. When you're playing the ritual, basically anytime you face an intelligent enemy, you can play the ritual. This. Invoke that by pressing up on your keyboard or up on the D-pad. And each side puts down an artifact. He puts down the spider poison artifact. Your opponent must drink a slow-acting poison before fighting. So basically, not good. So now I can choose a consequence artifact of my own. I currently have in my possession Fog artifact, covers the air in dense fog. Hornet's Nest, opponent will stun continuously if they stop moving. Snake poison, poison the opponent, causes cramps at random intervals. Tether, opponent is pinned, reducing their mobility. And I got two of these. First punch artifact, the opponent must allow the artifact holder to punch first, which is pretty good, especially if you have a whole bunch of enemies, you can soften them up. I think I'm going to go with the Fog artifact since I got two of these and I want to save these for really tough fights. So let's see. I have a choice. Either I can play the ritual or I can let the boy play the ritual for me. So if you're not interested in going through the motions of that, you can let him handle it. But I'm going to demonstrate. Alright. So first, you have to throw your dice. So, there we go. And now your opponent does. Oh shit, he has a lot of dice. I bought some extra ones here, an extra one myself, but this guy had more of them. Alright, line reduce. Here's destroy.
It is natural for the weak to lose.
Yeah, I'll get to you later. So, nearest destroy. Affects your nearest die, and the nearest enemy die destroys the dice. Area reduced. Reduces all dice within a radius. So, let's see. If you reduce a dice but to one lower, those dice are destroyed. So, let's go with all of these. There we go.
If only you could learn from me.
Okay, he just reduced those in a line. Now, let's see. Affects my nearest die and the enemy's nearest die. Destroys them both. Let's see if I can get... There we go. Destroy one of mine, but destroy his that's worth 4. Ooh.
If only you could learn from me.
Line reduce. Alright. Now, just this one. If I can get these 3... Oh, I can't. But I can destroy this one and reduce that one. Hopefully. Or obliterate these two. Reduce it by 2, and he wouldn't be able to adjust these, so. But he's down to 5.
As it must be.
Ah, damn it. I lost. You can't win them all, that's a problem. So I'm a slow-acting poison, that's not fun.
What a feeble thing you are.
Yeah, well. Ooh, shit. Oh, if I can get them to hit each other. Yeah. Friendly fire is active in this game. Of course, now I just gotta make sure I... There we go. Oh, damn it. Ah, well, we should have been paying attention. And this demonstrates night mode. So, there are 2 ways to get to night. One is to sleep in your tent. The other is, as you can see, you get your ass kicked because you're too distracted. This turns you into wooden pseudo. For some reason, when this guy goes to sleep, he wakes up like this. Now, at night, enemies are more plentiful. None of them respond to the ritual anymore, because you'll see if I run into one of them normal enemies out here. Basically, they all look like weird wooden versions of themselves. And, should you die at night, you die for real and have to restart from the checkpoint, having lost all progress since your last save. So... Oh, here we go. Hello. Pick up medium figurine. The figurines are basically used to upgrade your fighting style at a particular area. Now, first things first, gotta beat these guys up again. Yeah. Yeah, man. I have no problem letting these guys beat the crap out of each other. Yeah, man. In fact, I think I'm going to... Ow! Another problem with inventories, of course, that your inventory does not... Ooh. stop.
You will drink mud.
As you can see, weapons very handy. Shit. Recharge a little bit there. Unfortunately, that one broke, so. There we go. And thus are my enemies defeated. Look, one thing you could say about the Zeno Clash games is that, holy crap, they have some very inventive looking characters. Like, what was this guy even wearing as a hat? I can't even tell. Alright, so I just gotta go wake myself up and rescue the boy who's currently, well, hanging over there. Ah, and this, by the way, is the figurine burner, is what you use for upgrading your stats. So, I mean, your, wake myself up, come on. Not my stats, my combat styles. Yay!
Thank you, Pseudo.
No
Don't
problem.
read too much into it.
Yeah. So you can assign figurines to your skills and special attacks. So for instance, let's see. Right now my boxing stance, I put a lot of points into it, so it requires 2 level 3 figurines to continue to upgrade. I need 5 for my level 1 figurines. I do have enough the small ones for my regular attacks. I think I'm going to multi-strike, or you know what, I do like the extra damage that this one does, so I'm going to turn on spin kick. There we go. There we go. Yeah, this one, the rising punch is really good for enemies that attack from above, like this. Whereas this one is just an all-around, just good smack to the face with some really good stun ability. Just
Good.
steel blade, steel rivet. Ooh, that's going to be useful when I get to a merchant for specializing weapons. So basically, this is what the game is like. You go around picking fights with everybody who, you know, looks at you funny, and every piece of the local wildlife that does the same. Ooh, eremitic herptile. I'm gonna eat that.
A vulture. I don't like them.
Yeah. Am I gonna have to fight this thing? Probably. Is it coming down? No? Alright. So yeah, you basically go exploring, occasionally switching over to night mode, because there are certain areas that are blocked off. Oh, here's an example of a shortcut again. Although, never know what you're gonna find. Yeah, the other side of this is the lever to putting this down. Oh, and there are some more assholes down there. Let's go kick their ass too. Ooh. A small figurine. There's stuff to be found everywhere you look. Now, it is a bit hard, as I mentioned before, it can be a bit hard to get around, as you can see, because, well, the whole landscape is pretty much a labyrinth. You know, like, over there's a campsite, but beyond that, it's hard to tell. The developers are taking, at the moment I'm making this video, the developers are taking input on where to put, like, signposts and stuff like that to help people figure their way out. But, overall, I think this game is not as difficult as your average kind of Soulsy type game, but it still is probably far more difficult than your average, your average first-person brawler game. So I think that should be taken into account when you decide to pick this game up. However, I definitely think it is well worth looking into because, well, for one thing, look at it. You're not. Oh, hello.
Attention, travelers! You have entered the domain of the Eastern Zenozoik traveling players. We are pleased to announce our latest performance is about to begin. And when it is over, you will both be joining our illustrious company.
Okay.
The director will be so pleased. He's always saying we need more child performers.
These guys are very, very odd. I'm gonna beat the crap out of them. So you don't actually need to do the ritual if you don't want to, but this is slashed out.
know your lines?
Do you?
I'm so going to upstage you.
Ooh, these guys like their multi-strike too.
Break a leg.
What the heck? Oh god. Cluster bombs?
I'm gonna make you pause.
There we go. And there we go.
I thought we were going to lose.
Yeah, it came a bit close. Grab myself a little refresher. Ooh, more yellow cactus. So yeah, the cast of characters in this game can be odd, to say the least. And that's beyond going into the, you know, very strange looking creatures that you run into, like land crab, colorful land crabs. But none can stand to my kung fu. Ooh, what do we get here?
Good.
Ooh, artifacts, ivory. Ivory's good because it lets you make more dice. But yeah, you have lots of places to explore. Every nook and cranny has something interesting to look at, or, you know, something to find. And the same goes for at night, because not only do you have various things that you can find there. You can't see it here because I'm not at night, but you saw that my probably saw that my body parts were a bit mismatched when I was doing that night bit there. That's because you can actually find new body parts for your night form that give you the same kind of effects as clothing and weapons do. So bonuses to your stats. Of course, those are only available at night, so you do have to hunt those down. There you go. And so this is basically how it goes. You go around exploring the land, finding new campsites, and from here, preparing some health brews. Let's see here. There's 3 of these and 1 of these. That gives me a defense bonus. And let's go for punchy. And punchy in that. And that gives me this one. Oh, that's cool. Tent, and see here. Currently at 2,228 XP out of 3966 for next level up. So basically just go around beating up things for XP. That's one of the reasons why you may also want to, for instance, wake up at night. And switch around, as you can see here, as I mentioned. Body parts. Got a bunch of different arms I can select from. Let's go with the drowned arms, the same stats. So this one just looking a little weird. Now, exploring at night is more dangerous because if you die, you don't get a second chance. You're basically done and have to restart from there. The last campsite you saved at. That's locked from the other side. But you generally can find stuff that you wouldn't necessarily be able to find otherwise. What do we got here? Oh, these guys, but scarecrow versions. Ooh, and this is what happens when your attack bar gets full. First person mode, a la classic Zeno Clash. Oh! And finished off. Basically, whenever your attack bar fills up. There we go, took him out. Whenever your attack bar fills up like that, you can then get close to an enemy, activate it, and you go first person with the same kind of moves you had in the original Zeno Clash. And it can then just keep punching them with, you know, really high stun level. And then once you punch them enough, then you get a final finishing move and can do a shit ton of damage very quickly. So it's good to have that around, especially if you can build it up by beating up on other enemies before you get to a major fight. Yeah, I love this game. This is really, really fun. Can't go over there because I haven't explored far enough during the day, but this game is just very inventive in everything feels good too. The combat feels weighty. Your punches have some really good impact, which is really important for a game like this. It really feels like you're hitting things, and when you get hit, it feels, you know, nice and decisive too. You can see the little guys in barrels there, and this big old whatever the hell that guy is. As you can see, oh, and here we go. Actually lower this bridge and get across it faster. Yeah, this is a game I recommend pretty much all of Ace Team's games. If you're the kind of person who enjoys the gameplay of a particular title, I always recommend them, because frankly, there's nothing else out there quite like their stuff. But this one, even if you're more of a fan of the, you know, the original Zeno Clash 1 and 2, which were first-person brawling games, and you know me, I'm very much a fan of first-person melee combat. But even then, this one is very, very good. I mean, I can't really think of much complaints, other than perhaps the slight difficulty in figuring out where you're going, but even then, it's not game, you know, deal breaker in that regard, and they're thinking of changing that up. So if that's your only problem, it shouldn't be too much trouble. Ultimately, I think this game is well worth a purchase. You can find it on Steam, it's out on consoles as well, and frankly, look at this. I'm fighting a bunch of weirdos in barrels. And they're bizarro. I don't know what the hell this thing is supposed to be. Ow. Friendly fire, gotta love it. Oh, you son of a... There we go. Yeah, dodging, important. And there we go. Having that endurance booster is really good, especially because, as I mentioned previously, not every type of combat you have is the same. Okay, it doesn't show it here. But yeah, the lightning stance I'm using here is strongly boosted by endurance. So, endurance booster, better combat. And, here we go. Phase to explore, as I said. What else we got here? Nightform variant. I got to the root seer legs. Look at those things. Cool. Medium figurine. Fish head hammer. Nice. So yeah, there's always something to find. There's always something to explore and see next. And that's the great thing about this game. This is a kind of open world game, or explorable game, a Metroidvania style game that really, really, really uses that particular aspect to its fullest. There's always something to do, always something to find. And because of the night and day mechanics, there's twice as much to find, technically. So yeah. I'm gonna go wake myself up here. Clash Artifact of Chaos. It's available on Steam, which is where I got it. It's available on console. It is well worth a purchase, and I highly recommend giving this game a try. If you don't mind looking like this as you kick everybody's ass, then this game is a no-brainer. Go get it. I've been Zero Sum. I'm going to keep playing this. And I wish you all a very, very good day. Yeah.